It started at the top of a remote Hawaiian mountain. Scientists began measuring rising carbon dioxide levels in the air there in the late 1950s and 60s, says Union of Concerned Scientists President Ken Kimmel.
At the same time, scientists were noticing small but significant increases in temperature, and they were starting to link the increased concentrations of CO2 to the temperature increases.
While the science linking CO2 to increasing temperatures has gotten stronger, political will to act on it has nearly evaporated in Washington. That's one big reason for last week's March for Science. If last week was about science, this week's march is about people, says Liz Havstad, executive director of the advocacy group the Hip Hop Caucus.
As a movement, sometimes we get too stuck in the numbers and aren't talking about the human stories.
Havstad says the effects of climate change hit the poor and vulnerable first and worst.
And when Hurricane Katrina hit and we saw all in front of us what the impacts of a storm like that could be and what it meant for poor folks, poor people of color in terms of how our government responded, we knew that we had to take on climate change as a major issue.
That's why the Hip Hop Caucus and other advocates for these frontline communities have joined the fight against climate change. The movement has grown far beyond the usual environmental groups, the Sierra Club's Mara Cowley told VOA via Skype.
The coalition has grown so much just in the last several years. We have labor unions at the table, which is really exciting. We've got organizations like Color of Change and NAACP who work primarily on civil rights issues.
The list of nearly 1,000 partners in Saturday's People's Climate March reads like a roll call of local, state, and national progressive groups. But it's not just advocates, says Ken Kimmel.
There are a lot of businesses that are now part of this mix, either because they're companies that care about the fate of the planet and they're buying a lot of renewable energy and becoming efficient, or they're clean energy companies who are employing hundreds of thousands of people in the solar and wind industry.
The last People's Climate March in 2014 drew hundreds of thousands to New York City. This Saturday's march will be the latest in a series of protests in Washington since Donald Trump took office. Steve Baragona, VOA News, Washington.